Well, here we go with our literary terms review, list 6 this time. 6 terms we're going to cover: rhyme scheme, and then metaphor and simile, very closely related, but we'll count that as 2. Stream of consciousness, style, and syllogism. All right, so here they are. On your mark, get set, review. Rhyme scheme is a term that basically applies to poetry, and specifically rhyming poetry, because there's plenty of poems that don't rhyme. But whenever you have a poem that does rhyme, you're going to have some sort of pattern, and that is the rhyme scheme. Basic thing to remember is that people label the rhymes with letters. So you might have a stanza in a poem that's A, B, A, B, or it could be A, B, B. And then when there's a new stanza or a new rhyme, they would do like C, D, and so on throughout the poem. That's how they label the rhyme scheme in a poem. Here's part of a poem called A Poison Tree by William Blake. And the pattern here is A, B, C, D, and you'll see that emerge pretty quickly. I was angry with my friend, I told my wrath did end. I was angry with my foe, I told it not, my wrath did grow. And I watered it in fears, night and morning with my tears, and I sunned it with smiles and with soft deceitful wiles. And it goes on, and so you can see that pattern of A, B as the poem unfolds. That's how you would label the rhyme scheme of a poem. Now, metaphor and simile are probably some of the best known figures of speech, and they're oftentimes paired together or at least taught together, right? So a metaphor is bringing together two unlike things, and so this thing is this other thing in order to make a comparison. So you hear the idiom, my brother is the black sheep of the family. So brother is the black sheep. Now he's neither a sheep nor is his wool black. It's obviously a metaphor to say he's the outcast or the odd one out in the family. Now simile is the same kind of comparison of two things, except you just throw in the word like or as. So once you start talking politics, my brother is like a raging bull. There's no stopping his anger. All right, so I didn't say he was a raging bull, I said he's like one. So that makes it a simile. And there's the difference really between the two. Stream of consciousness is a narration style. So the narrator is usually the voice of a short story or a novel, some literary work. But stream of consciousness is unique because it's seeking to kind of express the flow of thought in a character, right? So as a mind might wander from subject to subject, so stream of consciousness captures that. And I remember in college some of the stream of consciousness passages in a novel that I read. I was like, this is bizarre. It was so hard to understand. And that's kind of, unique or part of what it means to read or to write stream of consciousness. I'm going to read a short passage of stream of consciousness from a novel that's kind of known for it, William Faulkner's The Sound and the Fury. So probably what's going to happen is your head's going to hurt and you're going to hope I stop. But let's try it. Country people, poor things, they never saw an auto before. Lots of them honk the horn. Candace, so she wouldn't look at me. They'll get out of the way, wouldn't look at me. Your father wouldn't like it if you were to injure one of them. I'll declare your father will simply have to get an auto now. I'm almost sorry you brought it down, Herbert. I've enjoyed it so much. Of course, there's the carriage, but so often when I'd like to go out, Mr. Compson has the darkies doing something. It would be worth my head to interrupt. He insists that Roscus is at my call all the time, but I know what that means. So there's like no punctuation in that whole bit right there. That's more than enough to get it, right? Style is kind of a blanket term which covers the way a writer writes. And there's different kinds of style, but when we talk about literary style, it's, the way the author would express him or herself in their work. They have a definitive style, and that can be, influenced by the tone they take, by their word choice, sentence structure. Some authors are known by their style. But that's really what we're talking about is, the voice of an author is his or her style. Authors become known for their style. Some write very straightforward. Some write with thick, dense sentences. But you really have to do a lot of reading to really know an author's style. I mean, Stephen King has a definite style. In fact, he tried to put out some books under another name, and people suspected or felt that it was very much like a Stephen King work. And sure enough, he had to come out and admit that it was his name that was behind the pseudonym, which was Richard Bachman. A syllogism is a rhetorical device. It's a way to set up an argument in which you kind of take a general concept and then you make a connection with something else to then become more specific to prove a point. So let's say you would say all dogs are actually canines. Twister is a dog. It's my dog. Therefore, Twister is a canine. So you see how that connects. Now, syllogisms can turn out false. They're not always logical if you don't put them together correctly. So how could a syllogism not work? Let's say you said something like, down feather pillows are soft. My pillow is soft, so my pillow is made of down feathers. That's not necessarily the case. So that would be a fallacy of a syllogism. All right, so you just have to carefully set it up and construct the argument. And that concludes this review of some key lit terms that you're going to find in a lot of literature or poems that you read. And so hopefully these will be in your mind and you'll be able to identify them in whatever you happen to come across. Until next time.